Hungerford is a story about a group of teenagers whose lives get turned upside down when their hometown is taken over by sinister forces. So for several years I had been working on my own YouTube videos, and a talent incubation company named Wild Seed Studios discovered my work, and with Jesse Cleverly, the creative director of Wild Seed Studios, we co-wrote together Hungerford over the course of about 6 to 8 months. And it got to the point with Hungerford where it was like, this is the perfect opportunity for me to imply my skills as a visual effects artist and director, and telling a full frontal story with arcs, to also telling a story with the camera. So we shot it on a Canon C300, which is a funny story behind that, which is I'd never used one ever. And we picked one up the day before the shoot, and my producer Jesse gave it to me, and he basically said, you've got 24 hours, learn how to use it. So I was running around Hungerford High Street with it, just trying, okay, so what does that button do? Oh shit, fuck. Fantastic camera to shoot on, I recommend it to anybody. Before Hungerford, I cut everything on Sony Vegas. And I said to the two producers, Jesse and Miles, I said, I can cut this film on, on Sony Vegas. And they went, we'd prefer if you cut on Premiere. And I said, okay, so I learnt Premiere for the film while I was cutting the film. And all the visual effects were done in Adobe After Effects. What you use at the end of the day doesn't matter. You know, the technology we have available to us now is just unbelievable. And I think that gives a lot of filmmakers, you know, for the future, a lot of hope. Tom Scarlett, who plays Adam Martell, is my cousin. And Sam Carter, who plays Kipper, is my best friend. Georgia Bradley, who plays Philippa, Adam's sister. We put out an open casting call to any local people interested in being in the film, whether it was an extra or helping out or being in it. It's funny because originally Phil was going to be a guy. It was going to be 4 guys in the flat, until Georgia came along, who was actually cast as Janine, which is Cohen, my character's love interest. And we said, oh, we're not utilising Georgia enough. Why don't we make her Adam's sister? Because my friend Josh, who was going to play Phil, dropped out, unfortunately. So we needed to fill Phil's shoes. And then it snapped into our heads. It was like, oh my God, we call her Phil because she's one of the guys. In Hungerford's a weird one for me because we shot all of it in Sam Carter's flat. That flat, you know, we didn't rent it. He owned it. And I lived there for almost 6 months. So there's a strange piece of Hungerford that kind of is very deep in my heart because it's so close to my life and to our life. And I think in a weird way, we deliberately wanted to do that because it felt more authentic. It's often very hard to create real drama and a real dynamic relationship with people. I, again, was trying to approach it, okay, so we're shooting this found footage. Now what that means to me is making everything as real as possible, even to the point of where it's hard to describe, where it's not cinematic, but it just feels like a moment in everyday life. We wrote up, over the course of kind of 8 months, a 60-page story document. For every scene, we knew where each character came into the scene and left the scene, what the conflict and the struggle was within the scene. And then we basically went and rented a rehearsal studio for 2 weeks, and we just hammered out scenes. Learning from it, creating dialogue, creating, you know, reaction and effect, and learning organically. There wasn't like a set structure to how everything should be. It was like, okay, so this is the scene. Cohen, you're like this, and you're going to come out of it like this. But remember, you need to get that piece of information across. As a director, I wasn't like, you are like this, you are like this. It was like, okay, Tom, talk to me about Adam. Where do you think he's going to come in with this? Would he react like that? Or do you think he should take it completely differently? And we organically, I think that's the best way I can describe it. We organically created the scenes, I guess. And then what was great is I allowed for some time on set when we were filming for some improv time. I'd prefer to overshoot than undershoot. And actually some of the finished film were moments that off the top of our heads we came up with. All the party scene, there wasn't even supposed to be a party scene, it was a completely different scene. And we were like, because they were actually all supposed to go out and get a kebab, and we were like, maybe they should have a little piss up. So for 20 minutes, I mean, I think it was even longer, half an hour to an hour, we just kept shooting. Loads of different moments. Cohen coming in with a guitar and his dressing gown, singing and serenading. And again, it was like we had all this footage. It's like, okay, so what do we like? What works? What kind of gets the point? And Again, it makes it more organic, and it was natural. It wasn't trying to hit precise moments. And I think for a found footage movie, I think it was a really clever decision to be made. For instance, so with a found footage movie, I really wanted to make sure we incorporated the camera as much as we could. I didn't want the audience to feel like observers. I wanted the audience to feel like they were part of the action and they were part of the scenario and part of the story. There's been a couple of reviews in the past few months that have picked up on it. And like, for instance, like when the bug is revealed for the first time, it pounces off the back of Adam's head and it scuttles across the floor. And I deliberately wanted it to crawl up the table and over the camera, because then all of a sudden the audience aren't just sat there watching it, it's in their face. And you're there with the characters in that situation going, fucking hell, what was that? That again just makes the scenario so much more engaging rather than just watching something like The Eye of God. It was about trying to have a dynamic shot where you'd done that in one flow, because it was found footage. We didn't have the luxury of cutting between putting the camera here, then pushing the camera wide, and then pushing the camera mid. So it was a joint effort, really, to push it as far as we can, because unfortunately we're not in a position where we can chuck 100 grand solely into marketing it. So for them, it was about pushing it to all the people they know, and we got a PR company called Hot Cherry, helped push the film to a lot of places, places like Bloody Disgusting to get a review and so on and so forth. So I mean, we finished Hungerford in April this year, and since then it's been a very slow burn, and it would kind of spike where we'd have a screening or a premiere, and then there'd be a couple of rumblings, the odd review. And I believe that'll be the case now for at least the next year. I mean, there's film festivals already next year that we've got into. You have to be patient and you have to let it almost simmer. So we are currently at the moment in pre-production for Hungerford 2. Better, bigger, tighter. And again, I mean, we left the first one on such a cliffhanger. We thought, let's go make it, because we want to know what happens next. So I'm currently in the process of just finishing off the story with Wild Seed Studios. I've just recently begun preparing my own short film, which I'm really excited about, which is all set in space, which is going to be awesome because I love space. The director and filmmaker Noel Clarke, I met with him earlier this year, and he sounded quite excited about potentially doing a project. Whether anything happens, who knows? So it's all good. I really do genuinely feel like I'm taking several leaps, not steps, but leaps in the right direction. So no, I'm very excited, genuinely. I think 2015 is going to be insane. Yeah, it's quite a few things.